Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah, it looks like it's coming through loud and clear.
Awesome,
Welcome
awesome.
to the stream. Do you go by Bogden or do you have a preferred alias?
Bogdan's good, yeah.
All right. Anything I should know about the game before I give it a shot?
Yeah. It's a kind of a very mood style game and very ambient. Not really, it's not mechanics heavy, so try to not approach it from that mindset. At least that's about it.
All right, I'll give it a shot. It says audio is preferred, so let me make sure that I mute the stream background and get this going. So while I get the game started, I see. Okay, so you're controlling both these little dots at the same time. Am I zoomed too far in, or is this? No, okay, it seems to compensate automatically. But this looks a little cleaner. I think zooming in, it was blurring it a bit, so that should come through a little better in the stream. Okay, so how did you decide on what you're going to make for the jam?
Yeah. Actually, I'll let you play through the first like 30 seconds or a minute first, and then we can chat about it because it is very
Sure.
ambient.
Okay, totally fair. All right. What matters is all that remains. You are curious. You are cautious. I think I just managed to get blocks from both characters on each other's platforms. Life has its woes, so stay on your toes.
Yep. So yeah, so that's the general idea of the game. It's setting up this kind of mood with a lot of messages, a lot of like, philosophical kind of statements, and sort of kind of going in the direction of trying to get the player to explore a little bit of deeper meaning in themselves, as well as kind of just enjoy a nice little calming, relaxing experience.
Yeah, I gotta say it is. I've had some other like decently mellow games on the stream, but oh, this one I want Kind to win, so I'm gonna emphasize playing on this side. I think I am more of a kind than a cruel person, although anyone who knows me personally knows that I care very heavily about justice, to the point where, I don't know, maybe some people would call that vindictive, but I don't know. There we go. Some pieces of you are easy to split apart. Interesting. You're wise or you're foolish. Well, I think everyone likes to think of themselves as wise, but I think it's the truly wise who think of themselves as foolish. All
Yeah,
right.
there's a lot of interesting meanings people can draw themselves, and kind of like what is the game saying to them about these statements, and how does the gameplay kind of reflect on that?
Yeah. Other things aren't so clear. I'm curious. Does the message at the end change depending on which one you clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you'll see at the end. It's a short game. It's probably only another like 5 levels or so, but yeah, there's a kind of an ending that goes through all of the choices that you have made. Whether or not you call them choices, they might not even necessarily have been your choice.
Right. Yeah, certainly before I understood that the white blocks were the key, I was kind of just going through. But yes, so I'm glad to say that means that anyone who's trying out this game in chat, which I'll make sure to post the link right now, and I'll post it again towards the end. you're going to have a different experience than me, hopefully, because you will play the game differently. I'm not going to say making choices. I'll just say play.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. So perhaps we can actually start
Yeah.
in with
Yeah.
the stream questions then.
Yep. For sure.
So, how did you decide on what you're going to make for the jam?
Yeah. So I started out with basically kind of brainstorming a list of just really vague statements related to the theme because I just started writing down like, oh, is it something that's emotionally connected? Maybe when one thing is harmed, the other thing gets healed. Maybe two things are experiencing each other's thoughts. Just like kind of listing a whole bunch of ideas. I ended up actually landing on one bullet point, which was making a physics-based 1v1 PvP game.
Hmm.
So, and as you can imagine, this is not the game I ended up making,
Right.
but this is exactly how it started out. So I started sketching out the systems and mechanics from kind of just a coding perspective in order to make it happen.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I ended up pivoting really hard, kind of halfway through because of just sort of thinking about what it would entail to create kind of a combat-based game. Originally, it was going to be something where you're sort of attacking the other side, but at the same time you're attacking yourself. So you need to kind of figure out a way to clear your opponent's base without destroying your own. I was going to end up making a bunch of different weapons and a bunch of different ways that you could attack each other's side. And then kind of one of the main difficulties I started thinking about was like, yes, that'll be a ton of work to implement. Oh, this is a cool one. And also the work in making AI for the game is actually would have been like a huge amount of work. So I really just try to do a hard pivot on kind of what I had as an engine and what kind of mechanics I had, and thought about where I could go with that. And I ended up making this more, exploratory, philosophical game.
Nice. Um, I think that's like I love it when people are able to like what you've done here is like taken the theme and you seem to interpret it in like both a literal and not literal way at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I definitely was influenced when I started moving in this direction. I was influenced by a lot of these more philosophical games like Thomas Was Alone, or there's a ton of like Flash games that probably no one knows about, but also explored these kinds of themes. Like one of my favorites was called The Company of Myself. But yeah, they very much married the gameplay mechanics with the meaning that the game was trying to convey. And I kind of wanted to do that here.
Nice. All right. So, what was your development process like for the game?
Yeah, so actually, originally I joined the Jam because I was trying to just learn a lot more about the Play Canvas engine, as something I just wanted to kind of explore. I recently learned about it and wanted to get experience messing with it. So basically, I just started, playing around with the engine and seeing what it could do and what it was capable of, and sketching out the design document, just really jumping in and throwing in a whole bunch of different pieces of code to see what would happen.
Nice. Oh, I didn't realize that was going to be the only thing. Sometimes we must take the long and winding path to get there.
Yeah, so this is the final level.
Yeah, okay. So, what is this going to influence? I'm assuming there's a block somewhere. I just don't know if I can see it. Because I know that there's this block on the corner here. Oh. Okay. Long, windy path. Okay. Sorry, I didn't. I kind of just brain blanked there. Started focusing more on the game than. I'm sorry. you just repeat.
That's the last level of the game too. So
yeah.
I mean, once you're past that.
Okay, yeah. Now I can actually see the block. I think I was always looking in the exact wrong position for where the block was going to be. But like this part, this is almost like reminiscent of like Captain Toad in terms of the way you gotta like look around, and I do really like that.
Yeah, there's also a bit of inspiration from games like Fez or Monument Valley in kind of the thinking about. Originally, one thing I wanted to explore was this idea of this orthographic projection and ways the mechanics could interact with that.
Yeah.
If you take like a really sidelong view of the camera, you can see the other side of the the other mirrored board on
Like,
the other side. And
yeah.
if you move your mouse back and forth when there's when there's actually stuff to click on,
Hmm.
it'll actually immediately jump to that side in a very seamless way. So I wanted to explore that a bit, but ended up not pursuing that direction because it was just not enough time.
Okay. What have I done to the cube here?
If you look around, you should be able to see it still.
Yeah, okay, I think I don't know. I guess I'll try doing another ping in this direction here. Hmm. I really don't see where I launched it. And the music stopped as well. If you're like, oh no, I broke it. Okay, I'm gonna reset the level because I really can't figure out what I did to that cube and where it went. No big deal. I hope that means the music comes back on. So that was quite nice. I didn't see where is the music to
It's not meant to stop. I've never actually seen it stop before.
Okay. So where did the music for the game come from?
So the music is from one of the stock music things, but I think I looked for a really long time to kind of find something that was appropriate to the mood, and you might have noticed the kind of the procedural piano music that I've added, and this is kind of my first experiment in doing something like that. But I wanted to really have a kind of a light and airy, very fun experimental mood to the whole game, and that's kind of where it all came together.
Yeah. Totally see that. Okay, there's the cube. There's the cube. Because I somehow managed to lose it in this space of like right here. I don't know where it could have possibly gone. I mean, we have the stream. Maybe we can go back and check. But
Yeah.
There we go. Completed your journey. All right. Let's see what is the result here.
Yeah, I think you have the cube stuck basically in the middle of the long hallway at that point, and so there's a blue pad that you can click on at that point. But yeah.
Oh, I was doing entirely the wrong thing.
Yes, yeah. So a lot of players have been doing that, and I've kind of, it's ambiguous as to whether or not, which side means what. I do try to hint at it by saying things like, it's the side that matters. What's left is all that matters. It's never explicitly clear, and it's not really meant to be. But yeah, it's like an interesting sort of a personality test almost. It's kind of like a very much, there's a lot of randomness in a lot of this.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to see what kind of meanings people put on this themselves.
Nice. I wish I'd been making some of the other choices because I'm sure that you can see that the choices that I thought I was making going forward are that. I mean, yeah, you know what? I will refresh the window because I'll while we continue going through the questions, then I will go ahead and play through the game the way that I had more intended to respond. So that being said, is there any particularly clever hack or shortcut that you needed to use to finish the game in time?
I think mostly just a lot of scope cutting. Oh, there is actually kind of an interesting discovery I had. I've done a couple of game jams before, not a ton, but one thing I did at the beginning of this project was, sort of set up the tech in a way that would let me, iterate quickly and just kind of like, add a bunch of different, classes and whatever, extend things, yada yada. But towards the end, I was like, why am I maintaining this like nice technical code base? I don't care about that, and it's just faster right now for me to just inline something and copy and paste this code 3 times. And so I came to this realization of just sort of cashing in tech debt is like a very valuable thing. You can just pay it off. I mean, you don't have to pay it off later, like in a long-term project. You have a ship date. You need to get it in. Let's just spend all of my capital in terms of tech debt and get more things in more quickly. And that was a very interesting discovery that I think is more and more or less and less relevant now that this idea of kind of boxed product games where you don't have patches is just going away. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think like there were definitely a lot of moments in like right towards the end of my Jam project where it's like, yep, okay, like, you know what? Let me clarify that statement. Towards the beginning of my Jam project, I was relatively good about declaring variables and not inlining stuff because I figured if I make a mistake, I will need to change this at some point. But then as I was getting towards, like, throughout the project, I was right. And there were things that I needed to change, and I'm glad that I didn't just inline them. So I think that that was good that I sort of set it up properly at the very beginning, but then definitely, like, very much some last hour inline the statement because, yeah, running low on time, don't have the time to do it right.
Right. Yep. For sure.
Did you need to cut or change anything in order to finish the game on time?
I think I had I had some concepts for a bunch of different mechanics, and so it's actually the design process was really interesting because occasionally I would come up with sort of a philosophical statement that I was like browsing through like sayings and stuff and trying to figure out what might fit, and sometimes the reverse would happen where I would think of a mechanic and then need to figure out a statement that would fit with that, and so for example I had the I had the statement. I had the statement first for this one, which would be, sometimes there's a right place for everything, and everything has its place. And so the mechanic that I then wanted to implement for that was for these kinds of zones where you would try to get the block into the zone rather than knocking it off in order for the level to be complete. But that's something I ended up cutting.
Yeah, I guess unless you were going to make a bunch of different levels based on that mechanic, then it would make sense to just sort of stick with one thing for the Jam.
Right. That's another challenge I ran into throughout the process was that a lot of these mechanics would only be used kind of in one place or just one time because of the nature of the game, where each level is meant to be kind of like a meaningful reflection of some sort of statement or philosophy or something like that. And by using a mechanic once, this game could be expanded in many different ways where you could have a very unique mechanic where, maybe you blow up a particular brick and then it shoots, fireworks into the air that then come up and then fall down onto the board and blow stuff up. And maybe you would only use it once ever, and it would like be very, very indicative of whatever statement that was related to. And I think that's just the kind of game it would be, just like very exploratory, a lot of discovery. So it was very challenging to try to fit those ideas into a 48-hour space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are, and the other thing is that unless you sort of set yourself up with set up the player, I guess, with the expectation that they're going to have to utilize different mechanics as you go through, you can end up throwing them off. Like, I find if you're going to have new mechanics, it's nice to try to have new mechanics introduced as often as possible. Whereas if you're going to ever expect the player to like fall back on one of those mechanics and like remember something that they've done before, like you're either introducing a mechanic and then it's like a fire and forget. But if you want them to remember something, so they're going to have to play a more challenging version of it, it's really good to have those either like back to back or like interspersed to like help build the memory pathways.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely a thing that Nintendo loves to do with like the Super Mario games, which is have these worlds where there's just one mechanic and it gets used in insane amount for that one world and then never seen again, pretty much. And so they introduce like the base mechanics and maybe like a couple of jumping behaviors, but then after that it's just explore all these different, very unique things, and then maybe it'll like revisit very briefly somewhere, but not really.
Yeah, I'll just really quickly mention that that was the idea behind my previous my Ludum Dare game, and then the two others that I made in the same engine are that you are playing with this engine where all you can do is jump. Like it's just a jumping game, and the character can also crouch, so you can like drop down through platforms. But fundamentally, I wanted all the like mechanical interest of the game to arise from the scenarios and the level that you're encountering, and just to have that really simple verb, like see how far I could carry it. And yeah, I again, in case you can't tell, big Nintendo fan here, so. I very much adhere to that design philosophy myself.
Yep.
All right. And do you have any plans for the game going forward?
Probably not. I mean, I think it's there's a lot of like really cool things I could do with it, but you know, I just don't necessarily have the time to be working on these kinds of side projects. So, but yeah, like I mentioned, there's like so many possible. Basically, you could take like every single philosophical statement and figure out, you know, are there mechanics that work with it? Is there a way you could work this into the game? And I could easily see this being like a, you know, right now it's around roughly like a 10-minute experience when I think that's like the average of gameplay. But
Mhm.
I could see this being, oh, you know, 1 or 2 hour experience with, you know, a lot more levels, a lot more development in mechanics and kind of just interesting explorations. And then maybe, you know, putting it on Steam or something, but that's just not something I'm going to have time for.
Right. Yeah, and just because I'm not quite to the end of this here, really great way to show off games. Oh, I'm glad iRod Studio. Thank you for acknowledging that. And let's see, I believe was there another comment? Yeah, sorry, I did see that you left a comment earlier as well. You've got hopefully a game in future. Yes, in that case, please. I'm going to go ahead and say Discord here is an invite, and if you want to send a game, obviously things are crazy busy right now, and I've got a huge queue of Jam games to get through. But anytime you'd like, you can submit a game, and um, yeah, that goes as well for Bogden as well. Sorry, I was like, how do I'm like halfway through the sentence and it doesn't make sense if I say your name right now, so I should have just started the sentence over. But yes, Bogdan, if you have any other game projects that you'd like me to take a look at, well, first of all, I'd like to invite you to anything you'd like to plug or anyone you want to give a shout out to.
Nothing in particular. I will just say that I'm very impressed with the Play Canvas engine at this point because you know, this is an entire physics simulation with like hundreds of collisions and everything happening, and it's all running at full frames with, you know, in the browser. And I was like super shocked at how well it performed. I did not expect me to be able to like put this much stuff into it. So yeah, those folks at Play Canvas are kind of know what they're doing, I suppose.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely surprised as to how well this is running in a browser. Um, I definitely wanted to make choices differently this time, but oh, maybe I still can, just barely.
Yeah. Yeah,
And you
when
know
one
what?
technique is just pushing things back and forth until you get something in the middle.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'm playing things a little bit too impatiently, but okay, we're so close. This is perfect here. Um, but yeah, so the one sort of other bonus question that that meant to ask, but then I forgot to, was if you had another 24 hours, what would you change about the game?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think adding in just a lot more levels. I think the you know, but then again, maybe not. I think it's good to have a jam game be completable in like 10 minutes roughly,
Mhm.
because people, you know, people don't have a lot of time for hundreds of games. So
Yeah,
having a short experience that's kind of well polished is always good. Um, so yeah, it's tough to even, you know, say what I would necessarily have done with another 24 hours. Just a lot of iteration on the existing levels and trying to make sure clean things up. I do think that one of the earlier concepts, where the "you are cruel, you are kind" level in particular,
Mhm.
where I introduced the idea that there is kind of a asymmetric, um, there are asymmetric sides of you as well as asymmetric sides of the game. You can
Mhm.
sometimes choose more deliberately which one you're going towards. I think introducing that concept a little earlier on, and maybe using it a couple more times might have been helpful as well to kind of bring home the point of, like, you know, where the choice lies or not. Because yeah, for the most part of the game, it is kind of like a crapshoot of which side you end up on. You just kind of get to watch fun blocks fly around as you do it.
Yeah, I realized that like even this time, like trying to make the opposite of a lot of the choices that I made the first time. I was like, no, I'm a well, really, I'm neither I would say that I'm an optimist, but if it's the glass half full, glass half empty question, my answer is the glass is at 50% capacity.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of ways you can interpret these things, and I like to see the way people do it.
All right. Well, I think that's about everything for now. Um, So yeah, thanks again, Bogdan, for joining me on the stream. And
Thanks for having me.
absolutely, I hope to talk to you again sometime soon.
Me too. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye bye.
Bye.